This tutorial will cover 3 topics: overview of performance tasks, accessing and administering performance tasks, and examples of performance tasks. By the end of this tutorial, you should be able to understand what performance tasks are and their purpose, and administer performance tasks, including classroom activities. Performance tasks are extended activities that involve significant interaction of students with stimulus materials and/or engagement in problem solving. They measure a student's ability to integrate knowledge and skills across multiple standards, and are used to better measure capacities such as depth of understanding, research and writing skills, and complex analysis, which cannot be adequately assessed with other item types. These skills are key components of college and career readiness. ELA performance tasks consist of 3 primary components. They include stimulus presentation, research questions, and writing. Math performance tasks consist of 2 primary components: stimulus presentation and information processing. Every grade within a school that participates in the pilot test will receive one of 3 types of tests: tests with computer-administered items only, tests with computer-administered items plus 1 performance task, or tests with computer-administered items plus 1 performance task with a classroom activity. All students in each grade at an individual school will receive the same type of test. Though all tests begin with computer-administered items, there are 2 different types of performance tasks that students, and sometimes test administrators, may encounter. When a test has 1 performance task only, that performance task includes a task overview and a student task. This is delivered entirely within the online testing system, and students will complete these performance tasks independently. Tests with a classroom activity and a performance task include a classroom activity on which the student performance task is based. Thus, students will complete the performance task only after they have completed the classroom activity. The classroom activity will familiarize the students with the context of the performance task and provide accessibility. Although students participate in the classroom activity together, the subsequent performance task is an individual activity. After the classroom activity has been completed, students can no longer talk to one another, and all students must provide their own responses. Talking or giving help to other students after the classroom activity constitute testing improprieties. The classroom activities are elements of the tests. Therefore, administrators and students should not discuss them outside of the designated classroom activity. To administer a classroom activity, test administrators must download specific instructions and a script associated with that particular classroom activity. TAs will find these instructions in the inbox located within the Online Reporting System, ORS. This should be downloaded 1 or 2 days prior to administration of the classroom activity in order to provide sufficient time to prepare. Once the TA has downloaded the instructions, he or she should carefully review the directions in advance of administering the activity. This is extremely important, as some classroom activities may instruct the TA to make copies of a diagram or project a visual for the students. More information about steps for preparing for classroom activity administration is included in the Classroom Activity Administration Guidelines, which is available on the Smarter Balanced portal. Classroom activities and performance tasks may take place on a separate day from the computer-administered items. For ELA tests, it is a good idea for a TA to administer the classroom activity and Part 1 of the performance task on the same day. Part 2 may be administered on a different day. Mathematics classroom activities can be done in a computer room, in the classroom, or in any area deemed appropriate for the assessment administration. Some English language arts classroom activities require students to have a computer. It is important to know ahead of time What resources and materials are required for the classroom activity in order to determine the most appropriate setting. It is also important to be aware of whether students need to work in pairs or small groups, or if there are any other specific requirements for the performance task. This information will be included in the instructions for the classroom activity. Regardless of where the classroom activity is administered, the TA should be able to record information for students to see, such as on a whiteboard, and may also need to display stimulus materials for the students, such as on a projector. In addition, TAs need to be aware of any accommodations or accessibility needs of their students. Keep in mind, though, that not all accommodations are available in the online testing system for tests with performance tasks. Students whose required accommodations are unavailable may need to be exempted from testing. See the Test Administration Manual and the accommodations documentation on the Smarter Bounds portal for more information. Classroom activities give students exposure to the context before they complete the performance task, so that the information collected in the performance task more likely reflects student knowledge of the construct, math or English language arts, rather than the context, for example, kayaking. As part of the administration of a classroom activity, TAs must follow these steps. Prepare for the activity by reviewing the item and teacher directions. Make sure to prepare any copies of documents or graphics as instructed by the directions. Recite the directions to students as scripted. Facilitators should read these scripts exactly as they appear in order to ensure validity. Introduce the activity. Distribute materials such as scratch paper and handouts to students. These materials need to be collected and destroyed following administration. See the Test Administration Manual for information about destroying materials. Now, let's look at an example of a grade 11 English language arts literacy classroom activity and performance task. This particular example is called Nuclear Power, Friend or Foe. Although the test is untimed, the table shows the approximate amount of time needed for the administration of each element of the performance task. These times do not include preparatory setup. As you will see, the classroom activity is estimated to take approximately 30 minutes. Part 1 of the student task will take approximately 35 minutes, and Part 2 will take approximately 85 minutes, for a total of 150 minutes. If some students need additional time, they may continue testing in another location or with a different TA. Schools can determine the best strategy given their needs and resources. For the classroom activity, the TA will show the students visual stimuli, including a chart and a photo, and ask the students to share their prior knowledge of nuclear power. Through class discussion, and in order to contextualize the examination of stimuli in Part 1, students will be reminded of 2 basic understandings about nuclear power. That it is one among several ways that societies produce electricity, and that its use is controversial. Part 1 of the student task that follows the classroom activity asks students to examine the stimuli, which consist of a series of internet sources that present both sides of the nuclear debate. Research questions call upon the students to analyze, integrate, and evaluate the sources that are presented. Part 2 of the student task asks students to take notes on the stimuli as needed to compose a full-length, argumentative report. Students are allowed access to the stimuli they examined in Part 1. Pre-writing, writing, revising, and editing are involved. During Part 2 only of an ELA performance task, students may have access to a hard copy dictionary and writing tools such as spell check. Students may also use scratch paper for pre-writing. Here's an example of a mathematics classroom activity and performance task. This is a 6th grade activity called Taking a Field Trip. This performance task will take approximately 90 minutes, 30 minutes for the classroom activity, and 60 minutes for the student task. Again, the test is untimed, and this table does not include the setup. It is also allowed for students to receive additional time if they need it. In the classroom activity, the TA asks students to identify some places they would like to go on a field trip. The TA follows the script, and information such as location and costs are collected. The TA writes this list and asks each student to select his or her preferred choices for a field trip. This is recorded for all students to see, and the students then determine where the class should go on the field trip based on the survey results and the cost per student. In the student task, the students are presented with data representing a scenario similar to the one they just experienced, and are asked to make mathematically based decisions factoring in that data. They receive information about a hypothetical class vote on where to take a field trip, the distance of each location from a school, and the cost of each trip. If this tutorial does not answer your questions, please visit the Smarter Balanced portal at sbac.portal.airast.org or contact the Smarter Balanced Help Desk at 1-866-815-7246 or via email at smarterbalancedhelpdesk@air.org. Click the back